Hello, I'm Dr. Roger Janke, and I'm here today to explore with you pretty much everything natural healing around the concept of viruses. Urgent, far-reaching global viruses, as well as just the simple annual flu that we're all at risk for and that some of us get now and then. This is a big topic because of the fact that the immune system is a reflection of the functional capacity of the human system. Just like any system and its capacity is a reflection of the overall well-being of a person. Viruses are around us all the time, and sometimes it gets to be a very big deal, like on an annual basis in the winter. Common flu has a huge impact on many, many people, and there are actually many deaths, typically of older, frail people or people with chronic diseases. And on occasion, there are major viruses which translate into epidemics and pandemics. I've been to China a number of times when a very large virus scare happened while we were traveling. And by the way, my background is Chinese medicine, and I'm going to show you a slide that'll introduce a little bit more about me. But this is a powerful, powerful moment for all of us to consider our own well-being and our health resiliency. So I'm going to go through a number of PowerPoint slides, and we're going to talk about everything from practical strategies that you can take just on a daily basis, also very accessible herbal formulas and some Qigong practices and so forth. So this is intended to be very comprehensive, and the presentation is a little longer, but you may find it worth attending to and gathering as much information as you possibly can to add to what you've already gathered so far. So here we go to the slides. All right, virus defense. So this is for any viral pandemic, epidemic, or even any annual flu. Don't panic, take action. Now, taking action doesn't necessarily mean, when we're talking about well-being, it doesn't necessarily mean going to a medical strategy. It means having health resiliency. So what to always do to maximize your immunity, we're going to talk about that, and what to do if you're at risk or even infected. First of all, I'm just admitting that there's a lot of information here. TMI, too much information. And this is an invitation to actually cruise through this information and match it to what you have understood so far. So this presentation is far-reaching, comprehensive, and you get to choose what to learn more about. In wellness, expecting someone else to tell you exactly what to do doesn't make sense. I understand that most of us would prefer to have someone tell us what to do. I'm suggesting consider becoming an empowered player. And the note is that none of this is medical advice. This is all home care, educational, and intended to inspire you to action. So my name is Roger Yuntka. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine with clinical practice for 40 years. I've written a couple of books on the whole concept of self-care according to Chinese ideals, which match in many ways contemporary wellness ideals. I'm the co-founder of Health Action, a training and consulting organization. We also do research. I'm the director of the Institute of the Integral Qigong and Tai Chi. I'm the founder, co-founder with my wife, Rebecca, of the Healer Within Foundation, and I'm one of the founders of the National Qigong Association. Just to give a little bit of credibility for my work in this field, I have lectured or given keynotes or consulted for or done trainings for the American Medical Association, the American Hospital Association, the American College of Healthcare Executives. This is like the executives of the hospitals throughout the United States, Mayo Clinic, Veterans Administration. We've done trainings with the Veterans Administration, National Wellness Institute, that should be NWI as National Wellness Institute. And you can have a look, for instance, at the National Wellness Institute, a very impressive, long-standing organization in the field of well-being maximization. So I'm reaching out to you, my fellow citizens. We are called to learn more about our natural healing capacities. It's a kind of patriotism. We live with the false assumption that there's nothing that we can do until we get sick. And then we are, shall we say, acculturated and habituated to seeking medical attention. Well, what would happen if we actually stayed well? Statistically, 80% or more of all disease and all medical services are preventable, 80%. So imagine the amount of money that could be reallocated. It's actually, I'll give you a statistic, it's actually over $2 trillion a year that could be reallocated to our schools, to the arts, to infrastructure, and so forth. Our habituation to turning to the medical industrial complex is, what would you call it? Well, it's a shame. It's a tragedy, and it's obviously government is not going to do anything about it. Obviously, the medical institutions are not going to do anything about it. Medical insurance organizations aren't going to do anything about it, and pharmaceutical companies and medical equipment companies are not going to do anything about it. So who's going to do it? Well, we, of, by, and for the people. That's how this works. So we have a revelation. We take action. And as you see what we're going to be talking about here, you can see it's like very, very accessible for average individuals to maximize well-being, including health resiliency of the immune system. Okay, so let's just stay with it. First, don't panic. Keep calm. It's the best remedy. And we're going to talk here and in another video that I'm going to be referencing to methodologies for mind-body practice for calming down. And by the way, one of them, and I want to just remind us all right now, is hydration. And during this program, I'm drinking Chinese tea. And I'm also drinking lemon and ginger tea. and these are both immune enhancing and also antiviral, particularly the lemon and the ginger. The green tea from China is also very empowering for the body, and it has many elements within it that are enhancing of function generally. So let's breathe together now, because the breath practice is a huge contribution to your functional self. A regular usual breath simply just keeps you alive. A deeper breath engages all kinds of functional components, which we're not going to take the time today to discuss the minutia of that, but just allow me to say that when you breathe deeply into the belly and chest, let's do it now. Hold for a moment and then exhale very slowly. You are turning on the medicine within. And part of that medicine is a calming medicine. And when you calm the autonomic nervous system, the immune system functions more efficiently. So continue throughout. Every time we mention breath practice throughout this video, we will take a deep breath. And then use the following powerful at-home self-care methods. Listen, take notes, and feel free to share widely. And you're going to be seeing this as a recording, and so you'll be able to send the link to this recording to anybody that you want to. So who is really at risk for serious virus infection? And I'll just remind you now, take a deep breath now and then. So it's not healthy people. Healthy people do not die of the flu or of viral infections because the immune system is working. You might get sick and not feel very well, but in most cases, people have the flu or a virus and they get over it because they have a functional immune system. Who's at risk is frail and compromised people with underlying chronic disease. People who practice Qigong and some of the other things from nutrition, herbal medicine, and even homeopathy we're going to mention, tend to be much less at risk than average citizens. So there are two Qigong options that we're going to be placing before you today. One is free. So look for a video it's a companion to this lecture on YouTube, and the title of it is Viral Qigong for Immune Enhancement with Dr. Yunke. And then the second one is that we have produced a comprehensive medical Qigong library, and it's been available for a couple of years, and it is being used by thousands of people. And for those of you who use this discount code, Viral Video, we're going to give you like a huge discount. Usually this library of videos, and there's like over 20 practice videos in there, in that library. Usually the cost for that is $300. For you, given the fact that it's a good time for people to be empowered, we're just giving a huge discount, so you'll just pay $99. So remember, there's a free one and there's a discounted one. Okay, so now this is the important bottom line from the CDC. That's the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Notice that the name of it used to be just the CDC. Now it's the CDCP, but it's usually called the CDC. The P is for prevention, and this is on virus risk. Some people are at higher risk for getting sick and even dying from viral illness. The list includes older adults, especially frail older adults, and people who have serious chronic medical conditions like heart disease, diabetes, lung disease, and more. And you can do more research on that. And part of what this program is for is to give you ideas about how to learn more. Now, this is not to say if you are not older or compromised, you should neglect health resiliency maximizing activities. And I would ask you, if you do think about going to a physician to seek help when you are you feel you're at risk, or that you've been infected, or that you have any kind of health challenge, I would ask, do you have a health-oriented physician? In other words, is it a physician that not only knows how to diagnose and treat diseases, but is it a physician that knows how to support you in maximizing your well-being? So first and always, everyday resiliency, practice wellness, means learn more about how to sustain your well-being, and that's what this program is about. You could use the information in this program if you're infected to turn things around more quickly, but mostly what this program is for is to support you in not getting infected in the first place, or if you are infected, turning it around, as I said. Now, this whole concept or paradigm of wellness or everyday health resiliency is prevalent in the literature of Chinese medicine from over a period of over 5,000 years. Pretty impressive. And so as America and Europe begin to investigate wellness, we have access to very powerful foundational material from the Chinese tradition that's been around for a long time, tried and true. Also, we can go to our grandmothers' grandmothers, and in Europe to all of the great original naturopathic or natural healing or herbal medicine methodologies from the from the 1000s and the 1200s and the 1400s and all the way through anything after the before and after actually the Dark Ages, because that's when herbal medicine and things like massage were very, very prevalent. The image here is, by the way, from a tomb from approximately 2,000 years ago, which is a set of instructions for how to do mind-body practices from 2,000 years ago. So let's talk about this concept of Yang Sheng. Yang Sheng means nourishing life. That's the translation into English, the English language, nourishing life. Well, nourishing life means staying well, having a healthy longevity, not just living long, because that can be a problem. It's living healthy. So what's on the list? Qigong. And part of Qigong is breath practice. So let's take a deep breath now. Remember, hold for just a moment, or a little longer if you want to, and then exhale very slowly. Then hydration, water with lemon, tea, any kind of herbal tea, any kind of medicinal herbal tea. So let's do a little hydrating. The very interesting factoid coming up about drinking a little bit later. Nutrition, as a doctor, there's so many different versions of nutrition. The one that I feel is the most important and that I share with patients over a period of 40 years is called anti-inflammatory nutrition. Look it up, and it's the internet, so take a look at a few versions. Rest is medicine. Good night's sleep, napping, these are all very, very powerful healing tools. The mind, learn to observe how often you're panicking or feeling distressed, because it's distress has an influence on the autonomic nervous system, which actually shuts down or diminishes or depreciates the function of the immune system. So learn to watch how you're thinking. Boundaries. Setting boundaries is a huge discipline. How often do you say yes to things when you really later think to yourself, I should have said no, because now I'm overwhelmed? Setting those kinds of boundaries. And then, of course, during flu season or any kind of viral epidemic, we also want to set boundaries of distancing and being close. We like to hug everybody in our family. In some parts of our culture, there's a lot of hugging going on that has to do with social connection, and hugging happens in our faith institutions and so forth. So, be cautious about hugging, and there's a slide on that coming up. But what I'm talking about here mostly is being able to set boundaries with your family, your work, and your social and relationships. And you will find that this can be distressing to your family when you start to set more health maximizing boundaries for yourself. Family and work and friends can become like, well, why are you doing that? And of course, the answer is, well, we're all wanting to be more functional, more productive. And to do so, one needs energy, sustainable energy. And to sustain energy, I'm realizing that I need to set some boundaries. Would you please cooperate with me in this? Connect with nature. The people who invented natural medicine were all connected with nature. The people who've invented more contemporary medicine, which is often very powerful and very useful, are pretty much disassociated from nature and focusing more on mathematics and research and so forth, and what gets gained and what gets lost. And what gets lost is our relationship with nature, which is very nourishing. And what gets gained is some very succinct medical breakthroughs that are needed. And there's a whole bunch of those, and we're thrilled about them. But how do you balance the loss of your access with nature as one trends in the direction of believing that we're just going to work ourselves until we're exhausted and then go to the doctor? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Study transpersonal topics means be curious, be thoughtful, and you could think about this as spirituality, you could think about it as philosophy, but it's basically to be considering the bigger picture of, well, who am I anyway? And who's in charge of me? And am I being consistent with my highest values as I live through my days? So when in your day can you apply all of this stuff like hydration and rest and nutrition and so forth? Well, you're having meals, so you would be thoughtful about your meals. You're sleeping, so you would be thoughtful about sleeping. And I personally suggest, and I do myself, doing Qigong practices as I'm going to sleep and doing mind-body practice when I'm waking up. And instead of looking at my phone right away, I'm doing little meditation and being thoughtful about the day that's coming towards me and so forth. So you can do some kind of movement practices or tapping or talking to yourself using affirmative terms. Research shows that about 80% of the time we're talking to ourselves in negative terms. So consider while you're in the bathtub or in the shower or on the toilet, or cooking and driving and waking up and eating and while you're computing, why not note how you're thinking, because your thoughts have an effect on your autonomic nervous system, and your autonomic nervous system, when it's tense, is diminished in its immune function. It's diminishing immune function. So you want to learn, study, discipline yourself to be a self-observational. And even when you're on the toilet, you can do stretching and moving around. Move parts of the body that you don't usually move. Novel gestures are very, very powerful. That's what yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong are all about. Doing gestures that aren't your usual gestures, novel gestures. So you can take a deep breath while you're driving. You want to pay attention to the present moment while you're driving for sure. You can adjust your mirror in your car so that when your posture is at its best, you can see the traffic behind you, so that when you slump down, you'll think, oh my gosh, I can't see the traffic behind me. Am I going to change my mirror, or am I going to change my posture so that I can use the mirror how I set it up? So the ideal is to have a daily Yang-Sheng and Qigong practice of about 30 to 45 minutes to remind ourselves about doing all of the Yang-Sheng ideas or the wellness ideas throughout our day, which includes taking a drink, taking a deep breath, making food choices, and so forth. So here are the keys to Qigong. The 3 treasures, we're going to talk about them. The 4 dimensions of practice, sometimes called the 4 baskets of practice, and then the primary powers, which are taking time to take care of yourself. And taking time to take care of yourself is focusing your mind, making decisions, having a practice, and having your practice be infused with the intention to be more and more conscious every day, in every way, as much as possible. And I'm reminding you here to see the description under this video to find the Qigong, the free Qigong video that's in YouTube. So the 3 treasures are the body, the mind, and the spirit. So in terms of practice, it's body practice, breath practice, and spirit awareness. And these are associated, as you can see, with yang, which is the force of the cosmos or the universe as it influences the earth, which includes ourselves, the fruit trees that we get our fruit from, the gardens that we get our food from, etc. That energy that comes in as sunlight and every other kind of, I'll just say it, cosmological resource that is bombarding and infusing us And then the yin below is the earth, the soil, the water. Soil and water plus a seed give you a sprout. And the sprout is in the middle. So think of the yin as associated with the earth, the yang is associated with the sky, and the middle, which is in this image called Tai Chi, because that's the name when these two forces of yin and yang come together. The Chinese word for that is Tai Chi. I know you think that Tai Chi is an exercise, and it is, but it's an exercise and a martial art and a kind of stress management practice that is based on and named after the natural merging of yin and yang, which gives you biological life. So my life, your life, the life of trees, the life of animals. And Chinese medicine is very, very beautiful system, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to have had a clinical practice as a doctor of Chinese medicine. Amazing. So when you get into health challenges, consider the possibility of consulting a doctor of Oriental medicine or a doctor of Chinese medicine. So that's the three treasures. Here's the four dimensions or the four baskets of practice: body practice, breath practice, mind focusing practice, and self-applied massage. And when you go to the practice video, there will be an example of each of these four baskets woven into a practice with the intention of maximizing immune function. Okay, now here's just a whole bunch of very, very powerful information gathered by myself over many years of being a doctor and doing a lot with people around the whole idea of staying well as opposed to reacting after getting sick or after losing health. Why not maximize health while your health is in place? So you could think of this as treatment or remedial strategies, because treatment happens when you have a diagnosis and you go to a doctor. So what we're really talking about is self-care strategies for health maximization. So when risk is high, like during the flu season, or when there's a epidemic or a pandemic, or when you're infected and you know you're infected with the flu, or any virus, colds and flus, here's the list. Don't panic, act from understanding. That's why we're having this time together now, is to maximize your understanding and give you a lot of things that you can research, and you can review this video as many times as you want to. You can pause it, you can write things down. Don't panic, understand and take action. Use all hygienic measures. Accelerate your yang sheng practice. That's the list of everything: sleep and nourishment and hydration. There's hydration. Let's take a deep breath too. Big deep breath now. Hold for a moment. Exhale very slowly. Increase your Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, and any other kind of exercise you do, including walking, nutrition, anti-inflammatory diet, any other kind of dietary framework that you prefer, vegan diet, vegetarian diet, ketogenic diet, Mediterranean diet, Chinese diet. There's just so many versions of all the different kinds of diets. You must, well, no, you're allowed to learn more. And I really, really strongly suggest it's not a big deal. See, the false assumption is that doctors know more about us than we do. That is not true. You know more about yourself than anybody in the world. And if you need a a diagnosis, go to a doctor and get a diagnosis, but then consider the possibility of saying to the physician then, thank you for the diagnosis. I'm going to go back to my self-care, unless you're in an emergency or in a critical situation. I'm going to go back to my self-care, my yang sheng, my wellness, and then we can retest later and see if my wellness program is having the desired or promised effect. Herbal resources, homeopathic resources. So let's just go through these one at a time. Don't panic. Get more well ASAP. And you can do that all day, every day, throughout your day by learning more, and that's what this program is for. Use all hygienic methods. Nutrition, especially drop sugar. For the rest of your life, if you can figure out how to drop sugar, because sugar is the one thing that is the most inflammatory. Yes, sugar is the one thing that's the most inflammatory. And your body makes glucose, which is sugar, out of celery and broccoli and kale and any kind of a carbohydrate. And remember, there's carbohydrates that are called simple carbohydrates. That's closer to just plain old sugar. And complex carbohydrates, which is more like I have to digest this first so that the body can make the sugar it needs. And, you've surely heard some about this, and we all love snacking. So, this program is about learning more and considering the possibility of making changes that maximize well-being. And maximize well-being equals more energy, more productivity, more clarity. So then hydration. I'm going to the lemon water now. Get extra rest and take action calmly. If you've ever been in a situation where people are panicking about the availability of items at the grocery store, when we're really talking about having a serious case of the flu, that means that the particular microbe, virus, is highly infectious, and people are being invited to not go into the public. So first of all, keep some resources on hand. And second of all, as soon as you get an inkling about the fact that there's something like an epidemic coming, get to the grocery store early, stock up, grow a garden. Wow, my broccoli and my chard and my kale is just gorgeous right now. And, don't forget to do breath practice, etc. So big, deep breath. So let's go to hygienic measures. You're very familiar with these things. Your grandma suggested it, your mom suggested it, your colleagues and good friends are suggesting it. And, we all have our personal habits, like this whole thing of don't touch your face. Haven't you noticed during flu season that when somebody says don't touch your face, and you're just like, ay, my nose is itching, my ear is itching, my eyes are itching, I have all over the place. When it gets really severe, or even when you're just being thoughtful during the season, use a hand wipe or a paper towel to open doors and on shopping carts and so forth. Distance yourself. Forgot to mention, sneeze into your elbow so that you don't end up putting those germs onto door handles and shopping carts and so forth. And then distance, there's all sorts of distance. There's just being apart by 6 feet. There's not touching by handshaking, using all sorts of beautiful, I'll just start on the left, namaste. You put your hand over your heart and just bow a little bit is a gesture that's used all throughout the world. Don't forget Spock, who would say, live long and prosper, elbow bump, and there's two ways to do this one on the right. It's a kung fu signal, which is like, yeah, let's kung fu. But there's also a more gentle one with a fist inside of a shield. And just think to yourself of creating a shield and of intention and well-being. And then from inside of that shelter of your own immune capacity, saying to another person, you know, it's a time for us to greet in a different way. Then do all the yang sheng. And we've talked about that pretty much, so I'm not going to go through it again, but you'll be able to review this video as many times as you want to, and you can share it with people that you know. So these are the power tools. Now for Qigong, there's simple Qigong for the immune system and the respiratory system, which will be the focus of the viral Qigong for immune enhancement with Dr. Yonka video that you'll be able to find by going to the description of this lecture and clicking on that, that link, or you can just take that title and put it in at YouTube and it'll take you to that video. Just some very powerful information from the American Journal of Chinese Medicine from more than a decade ago, and there is so much research on Qigong and Tai Chi. We have other videos that you will find at what's called the Tai Chi and Qigong Way. There's a lecture there of a lecture from myself to the Mayo Clinic that you will probably find very interesting. And here's one of the best findings that I could find for right now. Within 2 hours after a Qigong session, there is an increase in white blood cells. That's immune cells, macrophages and lymphocytes. A single Qigong intervention will increase monocyte and lymphocyte numbers. There is also evidence that Qigong practice strengthens the immune system, which is basically saying the same thing, and lowers the incidence of respiratory infections, viral colds, and flu. The state of the immune system, as I mentioned earlier, is an indicator of the overall state of health of the individual. So you can go to the internet and put in effects of Qigong on immune cells, and you'll find this article. You can read more about it. Then here is a very simple set of steps, and this is what the medical Qigong library that we're giving a major discount on for the purposes of supporting people in protecting themselves, as well as what to do recover if infected. And so here's the steps. First, you do Qigong practice in a state of sincerity and enthusiasm. That means calm, not distracted. And it's any kind of Qigong, any kind of Qigong. So if you already know Qigong, then you can just plug that in here. If you're not familiar with Qigong, then you can pursue the free video as well as the discounted video. And step 2 is use microsystem massage. That's massaging the ears, the hands, and the feet using thumbs and pressing, and you can use your fists and pressing, and you can go to the internet and find information about this. Microsystem massage is very similar to what's called reflexology. And what it does is that it takes step one, mobilizes inner resources or turns on the medicine within. Step two, directs the medicine to all the parts of the body, including the parts that need it the most. In this case, it would be the lungs and the respiratory system and the immune system. And then in part three, we go directly on to the part that needs help. So in the case of the immune system, we're going to be working on the liver and the spleen. Particularly, we're going to be tapping on the thymus gland, which is very associated with producing T cells, which are very, very powerful immune cells, which are actually a little bit more suited to targeting cancer. But we want to mobilize the entire immune system by using massage on the parts that need it the most. And so most people don't have the flu or a virus. They're just simply bothered by neck pain, and your family may have heart disease. So in neck pain, you would be massaging the neck. In heart disease, you would be tapping and pressing on the area around the heart. So the idea is step one, any kind of Qigong. Step two, use microsystem massage of the ears, hands, and feet to direct the healing energy or the medicine within to the parts that need it the most. And then use massage directly on the part that needs it, directly on the part that needs it the most. Is it your liver? Press your liver. Is it your pancreas? You're at risk for diabetes? Press your pancreas. Is it digestive? Rub and press your large and small intestine, etc. And here's an even simpler approach to calming down. Calming down is the most powerful thing that you can do. Use these steps every hour or so. Here they are. There's 4 of them. Move and adjust your posture. So in other words, get up out of your chair, move around. Maybe you've heard that sitting is the new smoking. It's actually called the sitting disease. And it turns out the level of risk for too much sitting and not enough moving is as high as smoking. So just so you know, and you can look that up, just look up the sitting disease and you'll find all kinds of information on it. And you can also look up posture, research on posture for enhancing functionality. There's a whole bunch of research articles on that. And just think of it, when you lengthen your spine, let's just do it together now. Lengthen your spine, makes more space for your organs to do what they need to do. You know, imagine if you're an organ and you're inside of a body that looks like this, driving, typing, you know, phone. And with the phone, we're like this, you know, thumb on the remote and all slumped down. Imagine how the organs celebrate when you sit up and make more space. It's very powerful. Then when you do that, when you adjust your posture, it just makes you want to take a deeper breath. Take deep breaths. There are numerous mechanisms associated with health, function, maximization that have to do with deepening the breath. So let's take a deep breath now and hold it for a moment. Exhale very slowly. Now, if you do that 3 or 4 times right together, you will feel something happening. And what's happening is that you're turning on the medicine within, or what the Chinese call the inner elixir. Yeah, the inner elixir, making medicine within our own being. And elixirs, just think of the difference between an elixir and a drug. It just sounds like, wow, I'll pass on the drug. I'll have the elixir, please. Well, how much does it cost to make this elixir? Nothing. You can't buy it. You can only make it for free. Wow. So adjust, get up, move around, take a walk, do Qigong methods, particularly move your arms around because that pumps the lymphatic system under the arms and has an influence on the heart. Notice that your heart is right between these two arms. There's practices that are called the arms or the wings of the heart. As you're doing a postural adjustment, deep breath, relax, and then hydrate. I'm going back to lemon and ginger. Then use this 4-word power formula from ancient sages. Say to yourself over and over again, I'm relaxed, I'm tranquil, I'm fearless, I'm carefree. Or you can just shorten it by saying relaxed, tranquil, fearless, carefree. Relaxed, tranquil, fearless, carefree. And you might be thinking, well, what if I'm in an emergency? Well, you don't say those words during an emergency, but how often are you in an emergency? And how often when you're not in an emergency is your autonomic nervous system being called upon to act as if you are in an emergency? It's actually a syndrome. It's called chronic hypersympathetic, because there's the parasympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is the go, and when you go, 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 you exhaust yourself. Chronic hypersympathetic syndrome means basically cannot stop and cannot calm down. So ask yourself the question, am I at risk for a virus because I can't calm down and my autonomic nervous system is actually turning off my immune system? It's a very powerful question. Then use a reminder chime on your phone. There's a very nice one called the Insight Timer. The Insight Timer, it's an app. So you go to the App Store, you look up the Insight Timer, and you can set your phone to make a sound every 10 minutes or every hour or every whatever you want. Most people get pretty going, can't stop. Using a reminder chime is it's one of the positive things about all this technology that we have in our lives. So check that out. That's a really powerful little tool, and it's beautiful. The Insight Reminder Chime has got many different chime sounds, and it also has an access to a huge list of very calming meditations. Okay, 5th part of what to do is nutrition and supplementation. So anti-inflammatory nutrition, we've mentioned it, has a lot to do with having high fiber, low glucose carbohydrates. So that's basically green vegetables, celery and kale and spinach and chard and broccoli and Brussels sprouts and so forth. But then the other vegetables, like cauliflower, not green, but high fiber, carrots, and so, just all of those. And sweet potatoes, have a beautiful yellow color. You want to cycle through all of these kinds of foods on a regular basis because that is anti-inflammatory, and anti-inflammatory is the opposite of that which aggravates and diminishes function. That's what antioxidants are all about. Is antioxidants are generally anti-inflammatory. And all of this has an influence on your ability to produce internal chemistry, and it even has something to do with supporting your cells in being able to continue to replicate well. Imagine what happens to a human being when cells become deficient in replicating. Cells are changing themselves over all the time. When you have lost a certain amount of cell replication capacity, you're more at risk. That's what the at risk of older people and people with chronic diseases, that's what that's all about. So consider investigating intermittent fasting, which means basically eating less food. It turns out that we eat way more than we need to be able to survive, and we do it because we've become habituated to it. It's not actually necessary to eat as much as we do. And so investigate intermittent fasting, which is pretty easy to do. Most people don't really eat 3 meals a day anyway. So just get a little smarter about how to approach that. And then longer term fasting can really accelerate healing. And there's lots of research on that, and you can check it out. And most people don't like doing it, but it's just so you know, and you can learn more. Hydration, I'm going back to my green tea. Water, of course, is always excellent. So the human body needs water to flush and so forth. And there's a lot to know about this. And, I just suggest that you look up hydration. And there's a beautiful book out there called Quench, by the way, Quench, which will kind of blow your mind about how to hydrate, because it's not just drinking water. A lot of hydration has to do with moving about. So I'll leave that there, but that's a very powerful concept. Then during the flu and virus period, when you're feeling particularly at risk, remember that the dry throat raises risk. So when you sip something fluid on a regular basis, like every 15 minutes, just take a little sip. What you're doing is you're washing any microbes, viral microbes that are in that passageway into the stomach, where those microbes are then destroyed by the stomach acid. So here comes the supplementation, and there's more that could be said about supplementation, but these are the big ones. Vitamin C, why it says day and hour is because typically on a daily basis, increasing vitamin C to 1,000 or a couple of thousand milligrams a day. When we are under duress, and not just by viruses, but just by life, then you can take 1,000 milligrams every couple of hours. Same with vitamin D. Vitamin D is a powerful immune enhancing factor. And many of us are actually deficient in vitamin D. And so you can increase your vitamin D intake typically to get up to and sustain the recommendation is 5,000 international units per day. And you can get smaller amounts and do several of them throughout the day. When you're under duress or at risk or feeling like your system is overwhelmed and infected, then you can raise that to a larger number per day by taking something like maybe 500 or 1,000 IU, international units, every hour. You have to be the person who becomes the expert on this for you. I'm not prescribing this, I'm informing you and inviting you to learn more. And these recommendations, if you do it at the by day rate, are very safe. But during a season of high risk, you may want to raise that, and then it's to you to figure out how much you're going to raise it and so forth. Same with zinc, usually 4 to 6 milligrams a day. And during a season where you're more at risk and more people are feeling sick around you, then you could do more per hour. I don't know the upper end limit for you. So you have to make that decision. Same with the increasing of probiotics to supplement and enhance the function of your the biome in your gut. Basically, is the word that is usually used. What we mean is the lower portions of the digestive system, the throat, the saliva, the throat, the stomach are the upper portions of the digestive system, and the large and smaller intestine are the lower portions of the digestive system. So consider all of these, learn more about these. Now let's go to the herbs. For immune defense, the American herbs are golden seal, echinacea, garlic, and grapefruit seed extract. Those are the ones that I have found to be the most accessible and the most, so you can get them all at your health food store, and the most effective. And then for Chinese herbs, you can also get these at the health food store. Anything with astragalus in it is going to be an immune defense type of formula. And reishi mushroom, there's lots of research on these and you can study up on them. And then here is a formula called Clear Lungs. It's a pretty much a Chinese herbal formula. You can look it up online, just look up Clear Lungs. And then here are the herbs that are in that. And there are, in Chinese herbal medicine, there are hundreds and hundreds of herbs. And these are just some of the ones that are the most targeted at maximizing lung capacity and so forth. Then number 3, make a spray solution with essential oils from herbs for the throat and the lungs. And I'm going to give you exactly, well, not exactly, but some guidance on this. And that is, you get one of these spray bottles. You can get that right off of the internet at Amazon and other places. Fill it halfway with good clean water, so that would be distilled water or filtered water. Then if you have access or consider getting access to colloidal silver or microparticle silver, so half full of water, 1/4 full of colloidal or microparticle silver. Look it up, understand it, decide what you want to do about it, add it in. I use it all the time. It's right here. In fact, I'll show you. Shake, shake, shake. I spray this into my mouth and breathe in at the same time. That's carrying all of these items these ingredients into the throat and even into the upper part of the bronchioles. Now, for the next ones, I'm giving ranges or not even mentioning specific numbers. So 3 to 10 drops of apple cider vinegar. This particular one has probably about 7 to 8 drops of apple cider vinegar. You decide by trying it. And then the golden seal drops. There's lots of golden seal drops available. You find them, you decide like how many drops to put in. This particular one has 8 drops of golden seal. Then essential oils. Eucalyptus is very powerful for the lungs. Tea tree oil and oregano oil are both very antimicrobial or antiviral. The word white there is referring to another essential oil, which I am so sorry, I did not put the rest of the name in there. And I didn't because I couldn't remember it then, and I'm not remembering it now. It's in my cupboard and it's very, very powerful. And so you can, eucalyptus, tea tree oil, and oregano oil are all very powerful. Those will do the trick for you. So then you decide, like, am I going to put a lot of one and that's all? Or am I going to put a few of each of these? In this one, there's like 5 drops of eucalyptus, 5 drops of tea tree oil, and I think 3 drops of oregano, and 2 drops of the white, whatever it was that I'm so sorry I didn't write down. So it's a pretty hefty taste when you shake, spray, breathe deep, hold, exhale. And then you use that more or less frequently, depending. Like if you feel like you're surrounded by people who are, like when I go on airplanes, I do a lot of lecturing and a lot of training, and I'm on travel a lot. I spray this into my mouth all the time. And I, of course, when I get into an airplane, I wipe everything down with a disinfecting hand wipe type thing. So the key here is I'm giving you guidance and education and hopefully inspiration about very powerful tools, but I'm not telling you what you should do. That's called prescribing. I'm educating you about possible options, and these options have been utilized by humans. Even essential oils go back into ancient times, and the power of apple cider vinegar is incredible. And just look it up on the internet. The amount of information on the healing effects of apple cider vinegar are amazing. Excuse me. I actually do not use shampoo because I found that shampoo caused dandruff. Yeah, so I decided that I wasn't going to use shampoo for a while, and eventually landed on the idea of using a little apple cider vinegar, and voila, dandruff went away. And I think that shampoo is actually a quite depreciating element to be putting on your hair, like so often as people do. Your choice, check it out, look into these things. Then let's go on to homeopathy. Homeopathy is a very insightful form of medicine that I have used in clinical practice for many years. And for the flu and managing viruses and colds, these two are the ones that are the most commonly used. The first one is called acylococcinum. Yeah, I know it's a big, long word, and just copy it and put it into your browser and check it out. You know, you could ask, is oscillococcinum really useful? And see what it says. Of course, when you put it in, you're going to find availability to buy it. I'm not suggesting that you buy it. I'm suggesting that you consider learning more about homeopathy and these two remedies, which are especially focused on viral defense. The second one is arsenicum album, and you might be thinking, oh, arsenic, that's a poison. But just the smallest little lesson on homeopathy, and then do look it up. And notice down at the bottom on the right there, it says learn more. ABC Homeopathy is a very powerful online tool. And the simple, quick lecture, and by the way, we're almost done here, is that think of poison ivy or poison oak. They give you a rash. Well, when you prepare prepare poison ivy or poison oak, which are in the same family, homeopathically, they can be helpful to cure a rash or to remediate a rash. And so as you can see, it's kind of like the opposite. Another example is coffee. When you drink coffee, for most people, it makes you speedy. When you take homeopathic coffee, it actually does the opposite. It calms you down. It's a very powerful and useful remedy for helping to go to sleep, either at night when you're going to sleep, or if you wake up and then have a hard time going back. Homeopathic coffee is very powerful. So whole arsenic can be a problem, but when it's prepared homeopathically, it actually has the opposite influence. And so do some more research on homeopathy, look deeper into it. If you often, as children, our mothers or grandmothers may have used homeopathy because it was very popular a long time ago and is very popular now. And there was a period in the middle where the pharmaceutical industry promised that it was going to make the world a better place and all of that. And we know how that story went. So homeopathy is on the rise again. And it's a very, very powerful method for managing your health, and not just for immune systems. So look into homeopathy for everything, particularly for sleep and for pain. Now, when you get these formulas, particularly the oscillococcinum is always in the same, what it's called, potency, whereas arsenicum comes in different potencies. So it doesn't really matter. It's not critical at all which potency you choose. So when you get to the health food store, just get the one that's available, because that's going to be the one that's the most useful and that people use on a more regular basis. The 10x means that it's been prepared in a certain way 10 times. And the 30C means that it's been prepared 30 times 100. 10x is 10, C is 100, so 3000, 10x being 1000. Anyway, it's complex, and you don't need to think like, oh, I've got to get this right. Think instead, what is available at my health food store? The potencies are probably not that different in terms of their effect. And then you can just free your mind of having to be into the very, very complex aspect of this. And if you want to get into the complex aspect of it, definitely look into it, and also seek to connect with a homeopath, which is just an absolutely fascinating and very powerful experience. Whoa, there we go. We're almost done here. You're going to be looking somewhere else for a practice video. This is an amazing time to educate and empower yourself. We've all been kind of lazy, and it's a really good time for the human race to wake up to how powerful we are. We have natural powers that we have neglected. And as a doctor, I'm so aware of it, and it's so incredibly tragic that we've allowed this to happen. So the influenza and viral epidemics are just a powerful moment to wake up, get more oriented. Consider talking to the people that you know about all these strategies, and feel free to share this video with anybody you want to. And also feel free to connect with us at the Institute of Integral Qigong and Tai Chi. I'll give you the web address here in just a moment. Here's our opportunity for now. Number one, most profound medicine is produced within the human system for no cost. The breath practice, the napping, the hydration. Of course, these herbs have a cost, but so do the medicines that you get from your doctor. And so there's no increase in the cost. In fact, the cost is going to go down if you take better care of yourself. And you might say, well, I paid all this money for my insurance. I want to use it. Well, okay, so then, that's a logic. Use your insurance. And by definition, you're going to be passing on taking better care of yourself. Or, you could use your insurance and take better care of yourself. All those are options. We're called to empowerment. How does it work? Well, first of all, learning. That's what our time together today is all about. Second, self-awareness. How often am I touching my face? How often am I hydrating? Am I resting enough? Do I have a rest deficit? Do I sit too much? Do I eat too much sugar? There's just so much about all of this that can be, that you can fix by just knowing more. Then cultivation is required. So learning, self-awareness, and cultivation are required. Then take action. And cultivation is action. Cultivation is reminding yourself. Cultivation is being self-aware. Cultivation is setting a timer, and when the timer goes off, stopping and doing a few deep breaths and hydrating, taking a few sips of water. Tea, or putting lemon juice into water is very powerful. Do Yang Sheng wellness maximization daily through Qigong and lifestyle innovation. In other words, innovation means I'm going to innovate in my life to be a better caretaker and advocate and ambassador for myself, my family, and my society. And then consider believing in your inherent powers. We make medicine within our own body for no cost. You can't buy it. You can only make it. And the nourishment and the herbs, they're in there to be processed as a part of how you make medicine within your own being. How incredible is that? And then share, get excited, share these things. Remember, the insurance companies and the drug companies are not going to do this. They're not going to do it. Have you noticed for the advertisements on television about drugs that while they're reading that long list of how the drug can harm you, they're showing you puppies and people having fun at the beach? Do you see how that works? I think of that as being sinister and inappropriate. And you can have your own feeling. By the way, if you're an executive of a pharmaceutical company, contact me. Why don't we work together to do something for the public so that they can understand things that they can do for themselves? Why not do that? You have a promotional challenge because We don't trust you. Why not why not offer something to your society that empowers people? Just a thought, call me. So here's the contacts, and I'm not going to linger here very long, but I just want to say, there's my email address. I'm inviting you to connect with me. There's the IIQTC is the Institute of Integral Qigong and Tai Chi. There's a lot of information on that website. Consider contacting or investigating the Healer Within Foundation. We're working with communities all over the world to create community-based practice sessions that are typically based on the 4 baskets of practice: body practice, breath practice, mind focusing practice, and self-applied massage throughout the world. And find out more about that. Free membership site. We have at that URL right there is basically a shortened URL. You can write it down now, or you can come back and pause this, or however you want to do it. And then go to Facebook and look up Institute of Integral Qigong and Tai Chi. We've got a page for our work that you can tune into. And then YouTube. The title of the channel on YouTube is it's best if you use the word "the" first, the Tai Chi and Qigong Way. The Tai Chi and Qigong Way. One of our videos, which is called The Physiology of Qi, has over 1 million views. My lecture to the Mayo Clinic is there, and there's just a lot of information there. So between those 3, 4, 5, IIQTC, Healer Within, free membership site, Facebook page, YouTube, there is a lot for you to be able to check in on. And if you're excited about all this, consider becoming a teacher or a community practice leader. The information for that is at iiqtc.org. So now let's go to practice, and we're going to do Healer Within Medical Qigong. It's in a separate video, so it's just a practice video. See, you find the description below this video. And remember, if you're really interested, we're giving a huge discount on the Medical Qigong Library. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing, and yes, like that. So I know it's a lot, and I hope you find it useful. I hope you'll share it with others. I hope you'll join me at the practice video, which is in the link for it is in the description below. And how does it work? Well, here's a kind of a final note. It's a phrase, and it goes like this. When each person takes on the job of taking care of themselves, the huge job of taking care of everyone is already done. When each person takes on the job of taking care of themselves, the huge job of taking care of everyone is already done. So I'll leave it there. And I wish you just waves of blessing and empowerment. Consider sharing these ideas with the people that you know. And I look forward to meeting you. And if we don't get to meet live, remember there's that phrase, out beyond all complexity, all multi the million things, what the Chinese call the 10,000 things. There is a field. I'll meet you there. So it's kind of like, wow, is it a beautiful field full of daisies and sweet smelling grass? Or is it an energy field? And either one is fine. I look forward to seeing you there. And I wish you well. Remember, we're not shaking hands now. We're bowing. We're bowing. We're bowing.